This does not mean anything. But with that said, we're going to talk about it anyway because I do think there is room for debate. And you are very, very, very free to let me know in the comments how much of an idiot I am for even thinking about this as a potential video-worthy topic, because honestly, I might deserve it after this. You see, we're talking today about some Vancouver Canucks players that are on the team. We're talking today about players that are not on the team, and how all of these names seem to circle around the wedding of Filip Hronek, which took place over the weekend a few days ago. Now, I just gotta say this at the very beginning. Getting married? It's pretty great. Filip Hronek, absolutely congratulations to you, to Mr. and Mrs. Hronek. They had their wedding in Czechia a few days ago. And videos from the wedding started going on the social medias. You started seeing people talking about the quotes, and you started seeing the speeches that were made as well. Filip Hronek, whilst addressing the crowd on the mic, goes out there and says, whether you're here from New York, Michigan, or Minnesota, thank you all for coming over here, and you can see everybody laughing, everybody clapping, and in the back of the room, there is a very particular table of people that happen to be from Minnesota or Michigan, from New York. In fact, I'd probably go out there and say that this is the Michigander, this is the Minnesotan, this is the New Yorker. Brock Besser probably was there, right? And leave it to a Twitter account called Hughes Updates, your number one source for everything Hughes Brothers related. Yeah, don't ask how, just ask how they do it. To post a little snippet of the Filip Hronek wedding, and Quinn Hughes is obviously there in the background. Like, it's not clear, you can't see the guy's face, but just look at this. That's Quinn Hughes. Here's a post made by Liam, Miller the Goat 9, who went out there and said this: quitters, JT Miller and Quinn Hughes attending Filip Hronek's wedding while EP40 is making TikToks in Sweden. Shows you who the real leaders were on the Canucks. And this tweet had 277,000 views and 600 likes. 59 replies, where one is critiquing Pettersson and standing up for Miller and Hughes. How on earth does that have anything to do with leadership? Move on if you can't and stop being a Canucks fan. You do realize it was talked about how much better the Canucks locker room was after guys like Miller, Hughes, and Garland were gone, right? You don't have to prop up JT so much. He's not gonna, okay, that's a pretty big comment over there, eh? This conversation continued into other talks from Quinn Hughes fans. This was in response to the video of Quinn at the Filip Hronek wedding. Quinnesota says, I didn't know someone who supposedly doesn't care about his teammates would voluntarily fly from Minnesota to Europe for his former teammate's wedding. Quinn Hughes must really hate them if he's willing to spend his time and money to be there. Makes perfect sense. Now, obviously, this is a sarcastic comment saying, what about all those Canucks fans saying that Quinn Hughes didn't like the team and didn't care for the team? He's at the wedding of Filip Hronek. Of course he cared about the team. This was then responded to by Rosie, who said Filip Hronek is one of the 4 that Quinn Hughes invited for a private dinner and didn't invite the rest of the team, with some players sharing how they realized how important a healthy locker room was and how they were afraid to talk in a room that Quinn led. He had a clique, and Hronek is only a part of it. This tweet had 73,000 views and 300 likes. Responses say, hey, you're looking way too far into this. You're also fabricating information about someone based on who was at his wedding. There's nothing but positive things that have been said about Hronek behind the scenes and the young guys who said he's been a huge mentor to them. Stop the nonsense. I'm not dissing at all, just trying to clear his name from Quinnesota fans using this clip as evidence that Quinn wasn't a locker room cancer. The Quinn Hughes riding era has got to be studied, especially with Wild fans, because how are you going to tell Canucks fans whether or not he was a good captain for the Canucks? Like, guys, you weren't even there. So why are you inserting yourselves into this discussion? For what it's worth, Chester Ming went out there and said, hey, there was a lot of commentary about who was and who wasn't at Elias Pettersson's wedding. I wonder if people will keep that same energy about Hronek. Probably not, because those people tend to be morons. Now, Pettersson also got married recently, and there was a pretty big fuss about who was at his wedding and who wasn't, and for the most part, it did seem like there weren't any Canucks at Elias Pettersson's wedding, which, I'm not going to say means anything. It's just what it is. But at the end of the day, Canucks fans are going to speculate and try to put meaning into things that we may not actually need to see meaning out of. The entire video has led up to this. It's Sap who went out there and posted this earlier on the weekend. Just from an organizational behavior perspective, I'm wondering if there are any current teammates at Filip Hronek's wedding at all. There needs to be more cohesion amongst the people who are actually Canucks, and this goes for inside and outside the rink. Think of Buyam and Villander, for example. The only thing worse than informal groups, cliques, in an organization is having zero camaraderie. That doesn't mean that Hronek can't be friends with Miller and Hughes. In fact, it's good that they're friends. Now, when you look at some of the videos and just some of the footage of what was posted about there, you can't really get a clear look as to who else is present other than Quinn Hughes. It's so obvious that's Quinn Hughes. Like, you can't tell me otherwise. And the fact that Hronek straight up went out there and said, hey, New York, Michigan, Minnesota, there is speculation that it was JT Miller sitting across from Quinn Hughes, and then there are some other folks going out there and asking, hey, like, is that Brock Besser on the left? Like, we can't really see. But either way, there are questions as to whether or not Elias Pettersson was over there. I mean, I don't know, there's somebody or two with a pretty bald head in the background there, so take your pick. But obviously, there will be people using this as evidence to spin a narrative one way or spin a narrative the other way as to whether or not Filip Hronek is somebody that also cultivates a good locker room leadership dynamic, one that is essential to the team the Vancouver Canucks are trying to build over the next few years. I don't think these things are one and paired between. I think you can have somebody that enforces good leadership habits and that opens up the locker room to guys being open to being themselves, rather than having this weird freaking locker room that we saw where, hey, Canucks players were not really feeling all too comfortable. There was this country club cliquey vibe. Quinn Hughes didn't know the names of a lot of the guys that were in the Canucks locker room. And then you have the Quinnesota fans that are going out there and saying, oh, like, Quinn Hughes actually was a really good captain. Look at him. He really likes his teammates. It's like, no, he likes Filip Hronek. He doesn't have that same relationship with all the other guys, even though he was the captain of the team. You know, the Sedins, those guys, they formed relationships with everybody on the team, and they made it known that everybody's presence on the Vancouver Canucks was valued and appreciated. That was one of the things that made them leaders and so welcoming to the room. Quinn ain't doing any of that. You could say Bo Horvat maybe did a bit of that. He was taught by the Sedins after all. But Quinn Hughes definitely did not have that same attentiveness, it seemed, as Vancouver Canucks captain. One of the best players in Vancouver Canucks franchise history. Top 3, top 4 for sure, top 5 for sure. But a terrible captain. And I think that's where we're going to end off this video when talking about Filip Hronek's wedding, because obviously we're taking a really good event and making like a drama-filled sort of narrative about it because people on Twitter aren't shutting up about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Does the presence of some of these guys at Filip Hronek's wedding and the supposed potential, maybe unconfirmed absence of other guys paint this Filip Hronek situation in a different light? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.